Before we start, as this webinar is to remember Srinivasa Ramanujan, I will start from some of his works. There is days, well before he started studying the so-called advanced number theory. So let us look at one such magic square which is given here. This is a magic square I want to discuss. It is very great. So what is great in it? If you look at rows, sum of the rows, you take any row, sum is 139, 19, 19, 86, 23, 11. If you add what you get is 139, 10, 24, 89, 16, sum is 139. 88 plus 17 plus 9 plus 25 is 139. 22 plus 12 plus 8 plus 18 plus 87 is 139. I got struck. Yeah. If you look at the columns, again the sum is 139 as for a magic square. But look at the diagonals, sum is 139. Now if you look at the corner cells, 22, 87, 19 and 11, the sum is 139. If you look at the two adjacent cells, except for the corners on the rows and columns, that is 88, 10, 25, 16. 88, 10, 25, 16, sum is 139. 12, 18, 86, 23, sum is 139. If you look at the middle square, 17, 9, 24, 89. The central squares, it is 139. If you take subsquares of all sides of the larger square, 22, 12, 88, 17 is 139. 18, 87, 9, 25 is 139. 10, 24, 19, 86 is 139. And the red colored square, 89, 16, 23, 11 is 139. Now look at the inner squares, except for the first row and last row. 88, 17, 10, 24, sum is 139. 9, 25, 8, 9, 16, the sum is again 139. But what is so great about this again? Every one of us know the birth date of Ramanujan. It is 22, 12, 1887, which is the first row of this magic square. 22, 12, 1887 is the first row of this magic square. So with this, I now get into my topic. That is from analysis to topology. To start with analysis, I am trying to share two main concepts of analysis, that is convergence and continuity. These are the two basic and important concepts as far as real analysis is concerned. Start with the sequence. What is a sequence? A sequence is an infinite list. In a sequence, the entries need not be different. You can have a constant sequence for all the entries are same. In general, the sequence in a sequence there need not be a pattern at all. But usually we call a set of numbers as a sequence if it has a regular pattern. So what is a sequence? A sequence of numbers is a function in which the inputs are natural numbers, positive integers, and the outputs are real numbers. For example, you take the positive integer 1 and the image of that 1 under a function is 1, the output is 1. If my input is 2, output is 1 by 2. If my input is 100, output is 1 by 100. If my input is n, output is 1 by n. That is the sequence 1 by n. So first term of the sequence is 1. What do you mean by first term? First term means it is the image of the natural number 1. Nth term of the sequence is 1 by n. That means it is the image of the natural number n. So the input gives the position of the sequence. Since all such sequences are functions from natural numbers to real numbers, we can plot them on two-dimensional plane. So for 1, you have a number. For n equals 2, you have some other number. For n equals 3, you have some other number, etc., etc. For any n, you have a real number. So we can plot sequence on R2 on the plane like this. This is another example to plot the sequence. If you look at carefully the sequence, it is an oscillating sequence. Starting from 1, at 1, the value is -1. At 2, the value is 1. At 3, -1. 4, 1. So it oscillates between -1 and +1. Or the sequence is, say, -1 raised to n. This is another example of a sequence which is after some term, it is like a word. So generally, we write sequence as A1, A2, A3, A4, etc. And the kth entry we denote by AK or AN, whatever it is. So these are some notation for sequence that we generally use. Sequence AK. Now, when do you say that a sequence converges? A sequence AN converges to a number L if we get farther and farther out in the sequence, the terms AN gets closer to L. As n goes to infinity, AN goes towards L. If you look at this sequence, you have a sequence here which is given by this dot. Finally, it goes to, or you can see that the pattern finally coincide with the x-axis. Sorry, minus 0.1. This is another example of a sequence which converges to a straight line which goes to 1. So we say that AN converges if it converges to some real number. If not, we say that diverges. For example, the sequence 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3, etc., 1 by n converges to 0. Whereas if you take the reciprocal of the terms in that sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., it goes to infinity. So we denote if a sequence AK converges to L, we denote that by limit of AK is L, or AK goes to L as K tends to infinity. If it diverges, we say that it goes to infinity. So to define a sequence or to define the convergence of a sequence, we need the concept of distance. As n tends to infinity, if modulus of an minus L is less than epsilon for any given epsilon, we say that an converges to L. So the concept of modulus an minus L, that is the distance between the nth term an and a number L, is very important when you discuss convergence of a sequence. Now let us look at the another concept of basic concept of analysis, is called continuity. If you, instead of numbers, if you take a function f of x, and as x goes to a, if f of x goes to f of a, we say that the function f of x or f is continuous at the number a. Formally, a function is continuous at a if f of a is defined, limit should exist. Not only that, limit should be same as f of a. In some sense, that means the change in f of x can be kept as small as we want by keeping the change in x sufficiently small. The change in f of x is small as we please by keeping the change in x as possible. Given epsilon greater than 0, there should exist a delta such that distance between x and a is less than delta, implies distance between f of x and f of a is less than epsilon. So you need two negligible quantities, epsilon and delta, which measures the closeness. As x is close to a, f of x is close to f of a. If f is not continuous, we say that it's discontinuous. If you want to think geometrically, a function is continuous if you can draw the graph continuously without lifting your hands. This function is not continuous because to draw the whole curve here, you have to lift your hands. This function, if I properly define the value at x equals 2, on the left hand side is continuous. Whereas the function on the right hand side is not continuous. Here again, another example. Deliberately, I made the function on the left hand side discontinuous, but giving a value for at x equals 2. Whereas on the right hand side, we have countable number of discontinuities. which is integral part of x. So when do you say that limit x tends to a f of x exists? Limit x tends to a f of x exists if limit from the left hand side exists and limit from the right hand side exists. That is, limit x tends to a plus from the right hand side should be same as f of a. Limit from the left hand side at f of x should be same as f of a. Now, some basic results in analysis: if f and g are continuous, f plus g is continuous, f minus g is continuous, some constant times f is continuous, and the composite f g is continuous. F by g, if g is not 0, is continuous. All the polynomials are continuous. Any rational function, wherever it is defined, is continuous. This is the graph of tan x. Tan x has many discontinuities at pi by 2, at 3 pi by 2, at 5 pi by 2. Similarly reflected on the left hand side: minus pi by 2, minus 3 by 2, pi by 2, minus 5 pi by 2, etc. So tan x, sin x and cos x are continuous in its domain, but tan x is not continuous on R. Now, using this continuity property of a function, we can prove a marvelous theorem in real analysis, which has plenty of applications in almost all disciplines of mathematics and its applications. This is the intermediate value theorem. The theorem states that if f is continuous on the closed interval AB and n is any number between f of a and f of b, where f of a and f of b are not same, then I am sure that there exists some number between a and b, say c, such that f of c equals n. If you look at the graph here, you have a and b and f of a and f of b on the left hand side. You have a function defined on the closed interval AB. You take number n, you take the, look at the value n here, draw a line parallel to x-axis through the point n. By intermediate value theorem, I am sure that the line intersects the given function y equals f of x, and the corresponding x coordinate lies between a and b. So we have a c here, so that f of c is n, and c lies between a and b. So every function, continuous function, defined on interval AB, takes values between f of a and f of b. You can find a c. If you fix n, we can find a c. This is another pictorial representation. You have f of a and f of b. You have the function. You take any value between f of a and f of b, draw a straight line to that point, and it intersects the given curve, the given function. Look at the x coordinate of that point. That will be surely between a and b. So in continuity also, we need the concept of distance. Where do we need the concept of distance? A function f is continuous at the point x equals to a if given epsilon greater than 0, there exists a delta greater than 0 such that distance between x and a is less than delta. Convergence and continuity. We need the concept of distance. Now let us try to generalize this concept of distance to any space. Then we will have the metric space. So what is a metric? I hope all of you know. You have a x set x which contains something that is not empty, and d is a function from f cross x to r such that distance between d of xy is greater than or equal to 0. It is always positive, including 0. It is 0 if and only if both x and y are same. Doesn't matter from where you measure, from x to y or from y to x, the distance between x and y and distance between y and x are same. And finally, x, if you take 3 points x, y, z, it should form a triangle. That is, distance between x, z should be less or equal to distance between x, y plus distance between y, z. So this concept of distance, the basic properties of distance on the real line is generalized to an arbitrary set. Then such a space, such a structure is called a metric space. If you look at the Euclidean board, there's the usual distance in R2. Distance between x and x naught is given by root of sigma x minus x naught the whole square, which is less or equal to r. Then you get an open board. If you include the equality also, boundary also, it is called a closed board. Any function which satisfies the property that I mentioned is a metric. So the second example is another metric, which is sum of xk and x naught k's. And the last one is the L infinity metric, which is the maximum of xk and x naught k. So you have 3 different circles on R2. The first one is the usual circle. Second one is again a circle with some other metric. Third one, which is a square in the usual sense, but it is a circle which will do some other metric. So as far as topology is concerned, circle need not be round. A square is also a circle. A parallelogram is also a circle. So the concepts which are important to study, the structure of metric space is open set, convergence, and continuity. So we have started from real numbers, which is a concrete example of a metric space. We generalize the concept of distance into any metric space. In the metric space also we can have convergence, continuity, etc. Now let us think to avoid the concept of distance. There is a need for that we will see later. So in a sense, metric space is halfway between analysis and topology. If we start traveling from real analysis to topology, the halfway is metric space. This is a definition of topology. You generalize the concept of whatever you learn in metric spaces into abstract space. What you get is a topological space. Some important properties which are topological are connectedness and compactness. A space is connected if you can't divide that space into two disjoint non-empty closets. A stronger version of connectedness is path connectedness. So if you take 2 points, if we can join any 2 points on a space, it is path connected. Compactness, as by the definition, if you take any cover, there should exist a finite subcover. But all these are a sort of generalization of the usual compactness in Rn. Usual compactness in Rn means a set is compact in Rn if it is closed and bounded by Hale-Borel theorem. Now, if you compare convergence in topological space and metric space, let us try to visualize the concept of convergence. A sequence xn converges to x means, let us look at the right hand side first, metric definition. For all epsilon data 0, there exists a term of the sequence, say n. After the nth term, after that nth term, every member of the sequence is in that ball. There is a number n, say capital N. After the capital Nth term, all the terms of the sequence are in the epsilon ball of x. The value, the capital N depends on epsilon. So if you take this epsilon, suppose my n is capital N. If I take some epsilon dash, which is larger than this epsilon, my capital N will be small, smaller than this n. So this n depends on epsilon. But finally, what we need is, after some term, all the terms of the sequence should be in the epsilon ball of x. Then we say that the sequence converges to x. Now, in topological space, there is no notion of distance. Distance or open balls are replaced by open sets. So how do you define convergence in topological space? You take a point x, we have a sequence xn. When do you say that sequence xn converges to x? You take an open set A. Instead of open ball, you take an open set A. There exists a value n, capital N. After the nth term, all the terms of the sequence is in that open set A. If this is true for every open set, given any open set containing x, if we can find an n, then we say that xn converges to x. So the whole notion of distance in R is replaced by open balls in metric space. The notion of open balls in metric space are replaced by open sets in topological space. Look at continuity. Let's look at the continuity in metric space first. When do you say that a function f is continuous? If the distance between, say, x and x dash is less than delta, distance between f of x and f of x dash is less than epsilon. That means if you have an open set here on the domain, or on the range, the inverse of open set is open in the domain. That is the topological definition of continuity, which is extracted, which is derived from the definition of continuity in metric spaces. In metric spaces, if you have a sequence xn which converges to x and f is continuous, f of xn converges to f of x. Continuous functions maps compact sets to compact sets and connected sets to connected sets. That means if A is compact, f of A is compact. If A is connected, f of A is connected. Continuity is a local property. A function can be continuous at one point, discontinuous at another point. It's not a global property. If a function is continuous at every point, we say that function is continuous in the domain. What are homeomorphisms? Homeomorphism is a bijective continuous map whose inverse is also continuous. We can continuously deform that teacup into a torus like this. We can do the inverse also. From the torus, we can have the teacup. So you have a function f here, which transforms the teacup to the torus. F inverse transforms the torus to the teacup. During the transformation, there is no break. We are not adding anything. It is continuous. That is the importance of continuity. You can continuously deform one space to another. And teacup are topologically same. They are homeomorphic. Is another way of looking at it. How do you get torus from teacup or teacup from torus? So topological properties are those properties which are invariant under the isometries, stretching and shrinking. As I mentioned already, connectedness, having same number of holes, being compact, etc. are topological properties. So topology is the study of topological properties. If you look at these two pictures here, torus is homeomorphic to the other one here. Circle, we can continuously deform into the second picture here. Again, you can continuously deform into the third one, fourth one. If you look at the second row, all green colored curves are topologically same, but they are not same as the objects in the first row. A sphere, we can continuously deform into a rugby ball, ellipsoids. But torus is not same as a sphere. One reason, in sphere there are no holes, but in torus there is one hole. Number of holes, genus of the surface matters when you classify homeomorphic spaces. Instead of the torus, you can view the torus as a sphere with a handle. A sphere with a handle is same as a torus. There is a way to attach a handle to any surface. That will come to that later if time permits. But when we do so, as I mentioned, the transformation should be continuous without any cutting, gluing, pasting together, etc. But once you cut, there is a way to glue together. So if you cut this notch, then this is another way for identifying two objects. The first one and the sphere are same topologically. The second surface is like a teacup, the same as the torus. The third surface, two handles are attached to a sphere. It is same as a two torus. The first row, we have same objects. In the second row, we have same, but it's not same as the first row. So what if you look at the second row? The second row on the right hand side, you see a disk with 1 point deleted, or you make a punch at 1 point. It is same as an annulus. Topologically, in English, there are 26 letters are not there. A, B, D, E, O, P, Q, all of them are same. You can deform one to another. They are homomorphic. On the right hand side, all those alphabets letters are same. Cuboid is same as, or a cube is same as a sphere. You can continuously deform a cube to a sphere or a sphere to a cube. So that is one way of looking at topology. We have generalized, or we have started from analysis. Look at the basic concepts of analysis. Try to generalize to a midway metric spaces. From there, we have reached topology. That is the path from analysis to topology. There is another way to reach topology, that is from geometry. What is geometry? In geometry, we study geometrical properties of objects. What are geometrical properties? Geometrical properties are those properties which are distance invariant. A property is, if you have a property for an object, if you take an isometric object, the isometric object should have the same property. Isometry is usually, we call it as congruence. So two objects are congruent if they have same shape and size. But same shape and size means what? There exists an isometry between them. X and Y are congruent means there exists an isometry from X to Y or from Y to X. The property of being isosceles is preserved under congruence. Color, smell, etc. are not preserved under congruence. To take one object and suppose assume that its color is red. To take another object, they have same properties, geometrical properties, but color may not be same. So color is not a geometrical property. It is not invariant under isometry. all the congruents preserve distance, or that preserves anything that ultimately depends upon distance. Being same area, volume, curvature, etc. are geometrical properties, whereas color, smell, etc. are not. In geometry, we interested only in geometrical properties. What is geometry? Geometry of a set is a study of those properties of objects